And welcome back to another episode of the Real Conversations podcast. I'm your host, Jacob O'Connor. Real Conversations is a podcast for those dedicated to doing hard things and living a meaningful life. Today's episode is one that I'm super stoked to bring to you guys. His name is Marquis Bradley. Marquis has an incredible story. He faced a lot of adversity growing up and then built a really impressive fitness and personal training company where he works with some of the most successful executives and entrepreneurs in the entire U.S., including Koch. He's worked with professional athletes and just has an incredible resume. And the part that is super exciting for me in this opportunity is he's had countless people reach out to try and get coverage and to share his story. And he's had podcast opportunities. He's never done any of them. This is his first time sitting down and doing a full-length interview and sharing his entire story. He held nothing back, I'll tell you that much. He dove into extreme detail on every area that I pressed him on. And I'm super excited for you guys to check this out. So let's get right into the episode. And welcome back to another episode of the Real Conversations podcast. I'm your host, Jacob O'Connor. Real Conversations is a podcast for those dedicated to doing hard things and living a meaningful life. Today, if you're watching the video, you can tell I'm in a really cool gym with my new friend, Marquis Bradley. How you doing, man?
Doing good. I'm excited to be here. This is my first podcast.
Yeah.
So, hey, let's have some fun.
You were talking about this beforehand. You're talking about, people have been hitting you up to do podcasts. You haven't done any of them. I found out about you through a mutual friend, and I was like, he's got a really interesting story just from what I've heard. Like, I don't even know that much about you, admittedly, but I was like, this is enough where I think, like, if we dive into it, I think it'd be a really great episode.
You know what? I'm very grateful for my journey and everything I went through to be where I am today. So, not necessarily dodging podcasts, just knowing that timing is important.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I didn't want to do. I don't want to rush into something too fast and not be able to control it. And so in this case, now I'm starting to, branch out a little bit more and do a little more, a couple more things. So
yeah, you're going to kill it, man. I mean, you're already doing great. You're natural. But where I want to start, and my favorite place to start with someone that I don't know is, like, tell me about your journey. Like, how did we get to sitting here today? Like, growing up, what was that like?
I grew up in Wichita, Kansas. I was raised by my single mother. Jody Bradley is her name. And when I tell you she is absolutely phenomenal, she's phenomenal. She's my motivation. And she raised me and my brothers and sisters. I have 3 brothers and I have 2 sisters. And it was one of those things where, as the youngest boy, you're always getting picked on, always getting pushed around and, just all those kind of things. And it was funny how my mom never really babied me. She did enough to where I was a mama's boy, of course, but she also let me bump my head a couple times. She let me make mistakes. And so growing up, it was one of those things where I really envied a lot of people that had their father. As crazy as it sounds, right? I remember going to football games and watching everybody's father high-fiving them and celebrating them after they make a good play and things like that, and to watch that. And for me, I looked to the sidelines and, my mom is there and she's cheering and, I love that, but there was never that male figure there to really throw me in the air. I did have my brother, but he was playing himself. So it was interesting because I think that's what made me try harder. I continue to strive towards, punishing my opponents and to make sure I was the best person out there, because when I did that, the coach would recognize me. The coach would lift me up. The coach would, high five me and make me feel special. And so, I had a lot of father figures when it came down to the coaches. And that right there, I kind of will say, instilled something in me to where I've always had that edge to go get it and to stand out and never to blend in.
Was football the main sport, or like what was growing up? Like, what was the focus?
Oh, football, 100%.
Yeah.
So football was my passion. It was something that, I used as a tool to take me through college and to excel my career. When I was in middle school, my teacher was always telling me, like, Marquis, at some point, you got to pick something besides football. And, I look at him and I'm like, no, it's only football.
Yeah, I hate that.
That's the only option. And it got interesting because I didn't focus on my schooling as much. I wasn't the brightest student, but it's something about when a teacher told me I couldn't do something. I was adamant to prove them wrong, right? And I live by the sayings, tell me I can't. Philippians 4:13, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And I live by that. And so I remember being in the 7th grade and a Spanish teacher, they did the standardized testings, and she pulled me to the side one day and she said, "Hey, Marquis, I just want to let you know that at this current rate, you're reading at a 4th grade level, and your writing's at a 5th grade level. I doubt you're going to be able to go to high school." I'm in the 7th grade. I'm like, hold on now, wait a minute, what?
Yeah.
And she was like, no, like, you need to take this serious. You need to take it serious because at this point, you might as well just get held back and you're not ready to continue. And so I took that personal, and I knew that, my mom didn't work 3 jobs just so I could fail out of school, and I had a lot of people go before me that they wasn't succeeding, right? They didn't execute the way we had hoped they would execute. And so I kind of learned from what they did, and I made sure not to take my mother through those same things, right? And I wanted to make sure that my mother was proud of me, and that, one day I would be able to go back to her and tell her thank you.
And you were thinking that way as a 7th grader?
Man, as a 7th grader.
Wow.
100%. I was a mama's boy.
Yeah.
Right. Even though I told you I bumped my head, but, for me, family's always been so important, and just taking care of my responsibilities and having that ability, that opportunity to always want to be special, feeling like I was different. Heck, I remember playing bingo and feeling like my first time playing bingo, I'm like, I'm supposed to win. Like, I couldn't believe I lost. And it didn't even I couldn't recognize the fact that, not everything was going to go my way. And so, even in the 7th grade, I had that mindset that I was going to be in the NFL. I was going to buy my mother a house. I was going to take care of my mother. I was going to retire, no question. And in order for me to do that, though, I actually had to pick up my grades.
Yeah.
Right. I had to pick up my grades. I had to change my attitude. I was still a class clown because that's what made me me.
Yeah.
But I didn't stop. And, I had a lot of influences to join gangs and to do things like that. But, I kind of stayed the course, and I wanted to play football so bad that I wasn't going to let anything distract me or detour me from my goal.
Hey guys, Jacob here. Real quick before we get back into the episode, I just want to take a quick second and say, you may have noticed I don't run any advertisements on the podcast. In fact, I don't make any money off the podcast. It's quite the contrary. Over the past 4.5 years, I've spent quite a lot of money, time, and effort trying to grow this show. And my life right now is incredibly hectic. There's a lot of things going on, but I believe in the podcast, and I think that it's delivering real value to you guys, and I am going to continue to do it. And all that I ask in return on the back end is that you share the link with a friend. If you guys enjoy this episode, if you're listening or watching on Apple, YouTube, or Spotify, please just go into the app, click the link, and text it to 1 or 2 people. It really does make a huge difference, and it helps me to justify all of the time, money, and effort that I continue to put into this every week. So I appreciate you guys, and let's get back to the episode. So as someone who didn't grow up in Wichita, I've been here for 3 or 4 years now, and I'm trying to get a better picture of this city. There's so many different sides and pieces to it, but I guess what I'm gathering from your comment is there were some rougher areas of town that drew kids in.
Oh man, I was in the heart of it.
Yeah.
2110 North Pyatt, right off of Grove. So all the stories you probably heard about Grove Street and all the things like that, I was there, right? So I would practice at Grove Park and, riding my bikes and getting chased by dogs. That was just the neighborhood, right?
Yeah.
But it wasn't scary to me. It was home. And I'm telling you, it's crazy to think that on my block, there was a bunch of kids growing up. And I had 2 best friends that lived down the street, Brock and Brooke. And I would always go down to the house, and we'd meet up with so many other people that was around our blocks. And I'm not joking. Majority of the people that was on that same block or in that same neighborhood didn't graduate from high school.
Jeez.
A lot of them ended up in jail. Mostly all of them joined gangs, and so for me, it was one of those things where, I did want to join a gang, right? I could fight.
Yeah.
So I was okay with that.
Yeah.
But it was more so I wanted to play football, and I understood that, I couldn't get caught up into it. And, I can't lie and act like I was innocent. I wasn't innocent by any means. I hung out with, some of the roughest crews on this side and that side. But it was a thing where I always remained myself. So when I would go up and shake people's hands and, they'd do a gang handshake, I would still just shake the hand regular.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I wasn't trying to be something I wasn't. I knew I wasn't a gang member, so I wasn't going to betray myself as a gang member. Now, I did hang out with gang members,
yeah.
but that was that was my neighborhood. That's where I grew up. That was all the people around me. So just because, somebody might judge them because of who they think they are, because, they're in the gang, they're going to label them. No, that's not actually who they are as a person. One of my best friends to this day, is a blood. And it's crazy because people would tell me, oh, don't hang out with him. Y'all on two different paths and, he's not right for you and, and all this stuff. And no joke, I believed in him from day one, never gave up on him, and constantly just said to myself, like, if everybody else is going to throw you away, I'm not. And I never forget getting ready to go to school and to college, and we're in the car and we're just talking about life and where life is headed and where life is going. And he says to me, I just want to say thank you because you're the first person in the hood to give me hope. I didn't have these kind of influences. I didn't have people going to college. Man, you're the first person, my first friend, my first brother that I actually know going off to college, man. You really inspired me to be something. And he was like, just do me a favor. When you leave, just make sure you come back. And I'm like, dog, I got you. Hands down. I got you. I ain't going nowhere. And so every time I came back in town, I would always link up with him. And of course, we'd go get in some trouble and do some things. And, but at some point, I knew that my influence on him would impact him to where he would change his ways and he wouldn't stay out in the streets and he wouldn't do the same things, right? It's funny. I never forget coming back one year from college and they wanted to go out so bad. And so I go out with them and I didn't really want to go out, but they wanted me to go out. So I go out with them and about 11 o'clock at night, I'm like, you know what? I'm done. I went in the car and I went to sleep. They came banging on the door. What are you doing? Sleep, man. Come on. All the girls are out here. I'm like, man, I ain't got time for that. Man, I got to get up in the morning. I got to work out. I got too many things I got to do, and that's when I knew I was special.
Yeah. It's that hope like as an anchor for that dream of playing professional football.
Yeah, no question.
That's awesome.
You got to make sacrifices.
Yeah.
And I watched my mother sacrifice, man, day in and day out. I know my mother wanted to be there to help me with my homework and she wanted to be there to, tuck me in at night. But, when she's working 3 jobs to provide for me and my brothers and sisters, she doesn't have that opportunity. And so for me, I'm like, okay, I'll watch my mother make these sacrifices. Right. So I understood early on that if I wanted something in life, I had to go get it. Right. My mother says the saying, and she says, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. Well, I wasn't falling for anything. I stood on something. I stood on the foundations of what my mother instilled in me as a young man to go out there and to make something of myself, And she raised me with this mentality of, don't wait for somebody to feed you. Don't expect somebody to feed you. Instead, you feed yourself.
I love that mentality. So I'm so curious now because I don't know your story. Like, what happens? Like, what's next?
All right. So okay. So I go, there's a part of my story that I probably think I should mention. And that's the part where, transitioning from middle school to high school, where I went to Marshall Middle School, predominantly Hispanic, to Mesmer High in Milwaukee, 95% Black. And then my sophomore year, get transferred to Wichita Independent, 95% white. Right. So I'm like, man, this is interesting. I'm very different everywhere I go. But, I had to remain myself everywhere I went. And I'll never forget being in Wichita Independent and knowing that I was behind everybody else, right? The education that I received was not on such a high level as everybody else. So, I always felt like the underdog. But just because I felt like the underdog, I realized I had a skill that not too many people had. And that was, my voice and being able to speak and be able to communicate and build relationships. And so I would go in and build relationship with my teachers. I would make sure that, I made them laugh and I would, just be my goofy self. And it was funny because they would call me in and they say, well, Marquis, listen, you're not doing too well in this subject. How can I help you? And then I would, listen to their advice and I'd do my part and I'd do everything I could to impress them, right? Because I didn't want to let them down, right? They were invested in me. They were believing in me, showing me like, hey, you don't got to quit. I don't think you're stupid. I just think you need a little bit more time. You need some help, but we can get through this. And so when you have somebody believing in you, you're going to do everything you can in your power to show them like, hey, I got you. People always say, go against them, prove people wrong. No, I'd rather prove people right. You know, the people that believe in me, I want to show you that you have a reason to believe in me. And so for me, it was doing that. And I'll never forget that I took the SAT the first time and the ACT the first time. And, you know, I scored a 14.
14.
14. Took it again the second time and I scored a 16. And I'm like, okay, and I need 18 to go to college, right? And I take it the third time, and after the third time, I scored a 17. And so,
Dang,
you know, it was like, man, you know, so I guess I'm going to a junior college. And then my mentor, Russ Meyer, who played a very major role in my life. And he was somebody that he actually was the one who had the idea of me going to Wichita Independent, right? He wanted to make sure that he aligned my mother's vision for me to actually come to life. And so he invested in me and he helped pay for my education. I was very grateful for that, you know. And he taught me along the way that, you know, regardless of you not having a father, I will always be a mentor or a male role model to help you. And I continue to guide you. And so, you know, I really appreciate that. So he was like, hey, I got this idea. Let's take the SAT. And I'm like, okay, let's try it, whatever. I didn't take all these other ones and they didn't work. So, you know, I can't mess up here. And I took it and I never forget getting this phone call. And he's like, mind you, I had been applying for the number 7 school in the nation in liberal arts education, which is Grinnell College in Iowa. So, one, I'm not just trying to go to any college. He wants me to go to
the best.
He wants me to go to the best.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, you know. And I never forget getting this call. And he's in London. And I just finished state track. And he calls me from London. He says, Marquis. He calls me Marquis. He says, Marquis, oh my goodness, you'll never guess what just happened. You're in. You are in. You are in. And I'm like, in where?
Yeah.
He's like, in Grinnell. Him and Chris Ashbrook. I never forget. It's him and Chris Ashbrook. And Chris Ashbrook was my principal. And he was like, man, you're in. And they were so excited. I was excited. So my math score on the SAT was high enough for them to accept me. And I never forget, you know, afterwards he told me, he said, listen, Marquis, I'm going to be honest, it wasn't your test scores that got you into the school. He said, it was something about the interview you had with the counselor there that really made him believe in you. And he says, you know what? We're willing to take a chance on this guy. Yeah, he might not have the best grades or the best score, but it's something about him that's different. And, you know, those are the people we want at our school. And so, you know, to hear that, right, that's just a boost of confidence.
Yeah.
But in my mind, I think I'm smart, right? I'm like, oh, I'm smart, man. Yeah, I got this. You know, I'm excited. But in reality, it was something where I tell people, you make a mistake. The moment you sit down with me in an interview, and you give me the mic, I was on. You know, I'm going to tell you from my heart. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm going to be authentic. I'm going to be raw. I'm going to just tell you exactly how I feel. But it's never to put somebody down or just to build myself up. It's more so just to say, I have an experience. And if you are willing to take a risk or take a chance on me, I promise you, I will not let you down. You know, you can, Fred VanVleet says, you can bet on me, right? Bet on yourself. And 100%, you can bet on me all day long. And so I went to Grinnell College. I graduated in 4 years. I was never on academic probation. The last article printed at Grinnell College had my face on the front, and it said, bigger than football.
That's cool.
Right? So it was one of those things where, you know, I went out there on a mission to prove people right. And so never to be on academic probation was a huge accomplishment for me, to graduate in the 4 years and then to have the opportunity right after that to get a call from the Kansas City Chiefs. So it was, mind you, I'm at a D3 college where you're not supposed to be good. And, you know, no one goes to the NFL from a D3 school. And, you know, here I am with an opportunity right in front of me. And I had a bunch of coaches that I had to convince and to believe in me. But once again, I was able to build those relationships, right? Coach Harbaugh is one of my, man, he's my host. He's my pops. I call him pops, legit call him pops. And he's somebody that has always instilled in me, even when I was in school, that Marquis, the sky's the limit for you. Whatever you put your mind to, whatever you put your heart in, I know you're going to be successful. So just keep going and go get it. I'm like, absolutely.
And I think you didn't directly mention it while you were telling the Grinnell story. You played football at Grinnell.
I did play football at Grinnell. So I continued, right? I continued the path that I started on when I was young, and I used my football skill and my gift to really go on to be able to play at that next level.
Man, that's incredible. And one of the things that I kind of want to hit on real quick too is I grew up, I would say the opposite. I was very good in school and never had any issues there. And I always thought that was like, that's how people become successful, is you just got to be smart. And then the older I got and more now, even, it's like, it's less about the smartest guy in the room. In fact, if you're the smartest guy in the room, there's probably an issue with that room. You need to go somewhere else. But it's more about like, A, what is your personal drive, your motivation, whatever those reasons may be. But also B, it's who's on your team. Like, can you talk to people? Can you get them to buy into the dream? Can you get them to want to see you succeed? Like, can you build relationships? And I never understood that so much growing up until later in high school. And it seems like you took the exact opposite track that I did and just went full in on relationships.
I didn't even know what I was doing. Right? It's just like I wasn't trying to build relationships. It was just happening.
Mm-hmm.
And, when I realized that I enjoy talking to people and I don't quit easy. Right? When you don't quit easy, man, can't nobody kill you. It's hard to kill somebody that don't quit. Right? And so I think it was that piece where I understood that, dang it, I'm at a disadvantage. How can I make up for that? And it was simple that teachers really, believed in me. A lot of people talk about having a bad relationship with teachers, and I don't think I had a bad relationship with any of my teachers. And so I was very grateful. And I can't take that gift as it was mine. It was my mother's gift, right? I think it was my mother, her nurturing ability to really, come for me and to make me feel special at all times, and to always show me love. And I think having that love and having that support system behind you is just as important. Because when somebody loves you, man, it's a lot easier to go home at night.
That is so cool because I feel like you can't grow up entitled, but to have a mother to instill in you like the idea that you're special, like that someone really believes that, and then you can like believe that in yourself too. It really shows, like, even when just talk to you, like you have this energy and it comes off and it's like, this guy's awesome. Like it's great.
And one, like I said, from my mother to my grandmother, and even my brothers. My brothers played a large role in my life to help me be successful. And they went down a whole nother path, but they got back on the right track. And, my brother would always say something that I think is important and really helped me, right? So I would always tell him, like, man, I'm going to have 25 tackles this game and I'm going to do this. And my brother looked at me and said, hey, don't tell me, show me, right? It's easy to say, it's harder to do. And so having a brother like that was fierce, and having another brother that was willing to, push me until I quit, I'm telling you, man, they really made sure that I was prepared for this world.
Yeah.
I don't bash my father. I'm very grateful for my father, believe it or not. One day I tell you that my father called me, and this would have been about 5 years ago, and he said the words that I needed to hear my entire life. And he said, it was a random call. Seriously, I talked to my dad probably 12 times in my entire life, and 8 of them have been on the phone. And I'll never forget this call, though. I get this call, and it says, hey, I just want to let you know I love you. I might not see you, but just know I always will love you. And he says, but I never told you this, but there was a reason why I never came back. Right? My mom left him, and he knew where we were at the entire time, but he never came back. And he said, I knew I wasn't the man that I needed to be the best influence on your life.
Wow.
And he says, I thought that if I did come back in your life, you would follow me. And he was like, I felt like you had a better chance of succeeding if you followed your mother.
That's incredible self-awareness.
Man. And it was, how can I be mad at him? And I was angry. But at some point, man, you got to forgive them. You know, I think a lot of times people don't understand that we judge people from our perspective. But if we actually humble ourselves and look at it from their perspective, we're going to gain a lot of understanding, a lot of knowledge of where they're coming from, right? I can't expect you to have the same values, the same principles, the same morals that I have. You wasn't raised like me. You didn't experience what I experienced. So I can't expect you to know what I know. I can't expect you to feel like I feel. You know, what I have is what I have, and what you have is what you have, and how you deal with certain situations is how you were raised, right, in your experiences. So for me to look at you and expect you to act a certain way during a certain situation or do certain things, man, come on. That's not fair.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. And we're still on a cliffhanger here, man. You got a call from the Kansas City Chiefs. What happened?
All right. So I get a call from the Kansas City Chiefs, and it was one of those things where, once again, I'm excited. I'm training. I go back to Iowa, and I'm training, and I'm doing everything, doing my part. And I go up. I'm actually training two of my clients. So I actually started training. There was an NFL lockout, and so I had to wait. And so when they called me, it was like, hey, Marquis, we want to take you through a workout. Come try it out. And I never forget, I was training two of my first clients, Patsy Baker and Steve Baker. And I get this call, and I'm like, the Kansas City Chiefs just called me. I'm like, I got to go. Like, I got to go right now. And so I told him, I said, hey, I'm going, I'm leaving, and I'm going to give it everything I got. And so I went out there, and I gave it everything I had. And, you know, it was one of those things where the entire place was filled with cameraman to assistant coaches to the GM was there the entire time. The player personnel, director of player personnel, Ray Farmar was there. Scott Pioli was the GM at the time. And I never forget, I get done with my workout, and he goes, hey, I want you to come up to my office afterwards. I want you to meet with me and Scott. And this was Ray Farmar. And so we get up to the office, and we sit down, and he asked me this question. He says, man, Marquis, so just tell me, if you wasn't playing football, what else would you be doing? I'm like, easy. Motivational speaking. No question. And he's like, really? I said, man, I love it, man. I love impacting. I love changing people's lives. I love just sharing my story and hopefully to inspire the next person. You know, Tupac has a famous quote that says, I might not change the world, but hopefully I will spark the mind that will change the world. And I feel like, you know, I was that spark. And so when I told him that, I was honest and I was upfront. And I never forget afterwards, he says, Marquis, listen, I think you're a great person. We love you. We want you to be a part of this organization, but not on the football field. He said, and I'm like, what? What do you mean? You know what?
Yeah.
And he says, listen, yes, you have talent, but these guys out here on the football field, this is the only thing they have. Only thing they have is football. You got a gift that can take you beyond football. You know, and although you're passionate about football, I'm not sure that's your purpose. And I'm like, oh, no. See, I was, you know, I can impact him later. You know, I can, you know.
You're like, no, scratch that. Scratch everything I said. This is it.
Man, for real, you know, but once again, you know, I can't help being me. And so my big mouth, you know, here we go again, getting me in situations. I'm like, man, okay. And, you know, I understand, like, and now here's the thing. They did offer me a job to work. They offered me a job to work and help with the players and things like that and recruitment. And seriously, not even recruitment, but just looking at players, talking to players and things like that, and told them no. Like, you know, I like that. Thank you for the opportunity, but no.
Did you have a backup plan?
No, not at all. No, I ain't even got to that story yet, but no backup plan.
Jeez, man.
Better yet, my backup plan was to go back, and I worked at the South YMCA in Wichita. Right, and I'm making $14 an hour working at the front desk. Man, I'm telling you, working at the front desk. And so when I went back, but here's the thing. You remember what I told you about my mother, right?
Yeah. If
you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. I never had a dream of working for the NFL team. I had a dream of playing in NFL, but I don't want to be on the sideline watching everybody play the game I love. So I felt like that wasn't my purpose, right? And so I'm not going to, I know what's in me. I know what I got to do. If I'm going to chase it, I can't chase it and chase, you know, working for the Chiefs.
Right.
That wasn't my vision. I never saw that as in my vision. So instead, I went back to work at the front desk at the Wichita YMCA. And it's one of those deals where imagine going to work every single day and you know you're not where you're supposed to be at. But I didn't hate it. I just knew that at some point something had to change. And I mean, back to back, I had two people coming offer me a job to, one, sell insurance, another was to sell roofs. And I'm like, how much does it pay? They're like, in 6 months, you'll make $60,000, and a year from there, you'll make $100,000. They're like, with your gifts, man, there's no telling how far you can go. I went home, told my mother, and she says, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? I said, I'm not going to do that, that's for sure. It's like, what? What do you mean? You're making $14 an hour. You need to be doing that. And I'm like, nah, I just don't see it. That's just not meant for me. And so instead, what I did was I put my 2-week notice in. And I told the YMCA, I appreciate everything they done for me, but at some point I had to jump. And so I had this vision in my mind where everybody says they have a dream and they're shooting for these stars, but no one's willing to actually leap off the mountain to see if they can grab that star. And so what I did was I went and I leaped off this mountain without a parachute. And I believe the guy's going to take you as close to the bottom as he can possibly let you get, only for him to pick you back up. And that's what happened. So I have this story I tell people, and it's, it's an old story, so I ain't gonna go too much in detail, but I went to McDonald's, long story short. No, better yet, I'd tell a better story than that. That's when I always tell. I'm gonna tell something better.
All right.
For Christmas that year, I couldn't afford any gifts for my family because I quit the job, but I didn't have a backup plan.
Mm-hmm.
So as I'm trying to figure it out, what I want to do in life, I'm stuck in this rut. Christmas comes along, and I can't buy any of my brothers or my sisters or my mom a Christmas gift. So instead, I wrote them poems, and I managed to get $20, and I went to the dollar store and I got these frames, and I put them in the frame, and I gave it to them. I was so embarrassed because that was the same year I had the most gifts under the tree.
Oh, geez.
And imagine, I'm 23 years old at the time, college graduate, thinking I should be way further in life than what I was at, and not being able to buy a single gift for my family. Man, that hurt.
Yeah.
It really hurt me. But there's this thing where I told God, and I said, God, if you allow me to get out of this situation, I promise you, I'll never be this broke again. Hands down. Because I wasn't just broke, I was broken. Right? It's one thing to be broke, but to be broken, you got to pick up a lot of pieces. And so I did. I went to work, and man, I ended up working at Wichita Collegiate, helping with the football team, the basketball team, and the cross-country team.
Just jumped into it all.
I mean, yeah, jumped head in. Like, whatever I can do, I'm going to do it. From there, I began personal training, and I began to use my charisma, my attitude to attract people. I end up leaving collegiate, built up my clientele, and got to the point where, I had about 50 people that I was now responsible for training. And so now, I'm making money. I see the difference, and now I feel like, okay, I'm somebody, I'm special. And I remember, telling everybody, like, yeah, I made it. I'm getting the flashy cars and watches and clothes and all that stuff. I thought that was cool.
Yeah.
Man, really none of it mattered, It was nothing because the people I was training had way more and didn't have on any of the flashy stuff. For me, I'm still trying to impress everybody, trying to pretend like I got money. I got a little bit of money. I ain't got a lot of money. And so I got to another stumbling point in my life where I had to transition, and I stepped out on my own again and opened up my own gym. When I did that, it was on. It was absolutely on. And
Rent's due.
But I had somebody in my corner by the name of Terry Newman who took a chance on me, and he said, hey, I'm going to lease you the space for a low rent. He said, just do me a favor, man, and just give it everything you got. And I did. I'm convincing people that I'm going to get you to your goals. And mind you, we don't have the best equipment. I mean, this is Walmart equipment.
Yeah.
In some cases, we giving people 8s and 10 pounders because that's all we got. I'm serious.
Just do more reps.
Whatever, but we like, and imagine you got to convince somebody that it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
Right. And they're looking at me like, man, this is a plastic 8-pounder and this is a metal 10-pounder. These are not the same weights. I'm like, well, if you feel the 8, it feels like the 10. I got, anything just to get them to not quit. And I'm out there and I'm busting my butt and I'm working hard. And, next thing I know, I look up and, I got 10 employees. 10 employees. I got, we had about 80 members. I mean, this thing is booming. And we're in that garage. And I'm like, man, this is crazy. And I was very grateful because, then life really get to going. And, it was one of those things where the opportunity presented itself to continue to grow. I began to meet a lot of great people. And these great people began to believe in me and invest in me. Casey Vogelai, Michelle Vogelai, they played a large role in taking me and my fiance in at the time while we were trying to build this gym. Steve Philmeyer, who saw something in me and was willing to invest in me in the sense of, he told me one day, hey, go find some land because we're going to build you a bigger gym.
Wow.
And I'm like, but how much, and he was like, don't matter. He was like, if you go out there and you find it, we're building, we get the right people behind us to support it. And just do me a favor. Make sure you continue to impact and make a difference in people's lives like you've done mine.
That's crazy.
I'm like, done deal. And there's a lot of people that stepped up to the plate. David May, one of my good friends, he stepped up to the plate. Man, even better yet, everybody I trained at that time stepped up to the plate.
Yeah.
Russ Meyer came and stepped up to the plate. People came and just really poured into this vision and said, I'm going to get behind you. And I mean, I was so grateful because I didn't deserve it. Right? I can't honestly say, oh man, I deserved the chance. I did all. No. There's people work way harder than me, man. They got it way worse off than I do. I don't deserve anything. But I'm very grateful for everything that I've been blessed with. And so, as my journey continued, I look up and they built a gym up the street. Now, this is a little personal story, and I know I'm probably going off topic and going.
Yeah, go for it, man.
But one of the stories that, I think is important to share because this was personal to me. While I was in that garage building, they built a brand new gym called OptiLife.
Okay.
And it was right up the street from me. And I never forget, I'm 27 at the time, still trying to figure things out. Most of the people that invested in this building were doctors. I trained these same doctors. I broke bread with these same doctors. They would invite me to their house. I would eat with them. We would hang out. We had relationships. These are my brothers, my real brothers. I mean, I'm talking about these are people that I love. To this day, I still love, But imagine knowing that they're building a brand new gym down the street and not a single time that they asked me to be a part of it. Like, imagine that. And then imagine when they opened the place, 50% of the people left. All the doctors left. All of them said, oh, I'm not leaving. Every last one of them left besides one. Pat Doe. Pat Doe did not leave. He stayed. He was one of the biggest investors into the thing, but he stayed with me. He stayed with me. He did not leave me. He's still with me to today. But everybody else left, and I had a lot of clients leave as well because it was new. It was shiny. Now imagine me trying to figure it out then. Like, damn, that's how y'all really feel about me? And I can't lie. I reached out a couple times and throughout the journey and just it was like, hey, what happens if I came over there and I rented space or, how's that looking? Like, oh, you probably couldn't afford it. Now, mind you, man, so this is where they messed up though is they lit a fire in me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I got something better for you then. I'm not joking. I said, I'm going to put them out of business in 4 years. Oh, no, I was out of it.
Did you legitimately say
that?
No,
I promise you. I promise you. Anybody that I'm telling you, I made it a commitment to myself.
Oh, geez, man.
I'm dead serious. And here's the thing. It wasn't the sense of I was trying to put them out of business. I was doing everything I can. But it was a sense that I'm going to go out here and go so much harder.
Yeah.
And I'm going to work my butt off because at the end of the day, why didn't y'all at least invite me to the table? Why didn't y'all just give me a chance? Right? That's, man, I wasn't asking for much but opportunity. You knew I was in this garage building. You knew the floor wasn't even. You knew I had mismatched weights. Yet, not a single one of you said, hey, come be a part of this. You know? And man, so it was on. You know, and next thing you know, a lot of people started coming back. They went through different president. There was no foundation. They kept going through different phases. And so once I saw that spiraling down, I just knew like, hey, I don't got to worry about them as much as I got to continue to take care of my own business.
Yeah.
You know, and at the end of the day, you know, I'm not that kind of person where I'm mean and I want people to fail. I don't want that because I know people's jobs are on the line and, you know, a lot of money was invested in it. So I really stopped caring about that. But, you know, at the first part, I was hurt. But at the end of the day, I was like, you know what? It ain't even about them because what's for me is for me. So, and I'll never forget, man, as this place, we break ground on this place. As we break ground on this place, I get a call from the guy who started it.
Started OptiLife?
Started OptiLife. And he says, hey, Marquis, I'm such and such. I know you heard of me. So I'm like, yeah, I heard of you. Okay.
Rings a bell.
Yeah, okay. And he said, you know, what can I do to get you to become a part of OptiLife? You know, I want you to come and run it. Not only do I want you to run it, I'm willing to give you 25%. And I was very grateful. 100% very grateful. But you better believe the biggest smile on my face came as I said, oh no. No, sir. I just broke ground on my own business. Better yet, I'm moving up the street from you. And I wish you all the best. But that ship have come and it's gone. I got a lot of other people that never left me. They believed in me. And I'm rocking with them. And plus, you can't give me 25% of nothing. Because it's nothing.
Yeah.
You know, and it was a very tragic ending to OptiLife. That was the sad part is, you know, the guy who was running it, you know, he wasn't as, loyal. I'm going to tell it like it is. He wasn't as loyal to his people.
Yeah.
To where they shut down, you know, without giving any warning. It was like Friday they closed. On that Monday, it was like, nobody has a job, it's over.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It was sad. And everybody found out that guy's true colors after that.
Jeez, dude.
You know, and and the sad part is, you know, that it had to end that way. Because I'm like, a lot of people really tried their hardest to make it work. And the people they had to work there were amazing. I'm serious. Every single employee that worked there was awesome. So awesome that I made sure to call every last one of them and got them Omnica. I'm dead serious.
Yeah, I heard you need a job.
I didn't say that. I just said, hey, I heard what happened.
Yeah.
Our doors are open. Come to Omnicut. I gave all their members free 6 weeks. Seriously. Because I knew, like, man, you don't just shut the door. Like, that was harsh how they ended it. And I'm like, you know, I'm not going to double. Like, these people had just paid for sessions. I can't charge you for that. You know, even though it wasn't my responsibility to take that on, I understood that, hey, somebody had to step up to the plate. And so I did. 100%. We opened our doors. We were jam-packed. There was no room to do nothing. I'm like, man, this is crazy. And, you know, I learned very valuable lessons, but I got a lot of great people from that ordeal. And I've been very blessed to be able to work with a lot of those people to this day. And, you know, I will be the first one to say I have no hard feelings towards the people, the doctors. You know, I still see them. They still my friends, still love them 100% because, you know, they was just doing what they felt was best. Once again, perspective, right? They weren't doing it to hurt me. They were doing it because they felt like that was best for them in that moment.
Yeah.
You know, not knowing that they really hurt me. But it was okay because I'm not going to hold a grudge. It is what it is. I'm better because of that. And I'm going to go keep going. I'm going to keep striving. I'm going to become the best version of myself now that you lit that fire.
That is a wild story, man.
Crazy, man.
That's wild.
Crazy.
I can't even when you have people that like invest in you and they appear loyal, and then you have that kind of betrayal. And I know you say it's not personal, but like I would take that personally. That would, and you can move on and feel better about it in the long run. But like in the moment, that would really, really bother me.
Okay, I guess yes. It will bother you if you don't use the energy the correct way.
Yeah.
Right? If you know how to use the fuel, it should light a flame.
Yeah.
Right? But if you don't, it's going to smother you. And there's no flame that's going to be lit because you're going to be down and depressed and upset that, oh man, I thought we were better than that. And you're going to soak in your misery and all the people that, you thought were friends and all. That ain't going to do you no good. The best thing you can possibly do is remain loyal. Man, I'm telling you. So imagine this, like, okay, a good example is Jesus, right?
Yeah.
Knowing that he's going to be betrayed, knowing that he's going to be denied by his closest people, his disciples. In his final days, did he say, I hate you? In his final moment, he's not saying, I hate you, I'm mad at you. I can't believe you're going to betray me. I thought we was better than that. We just broke bread. This Last Supper. He didn't do that. Instead, he loved them. He loved them still. And I'm like, man, if he can do that, then heck, for me, my feelings was hurt a little bit, but that was it.
Yeah.
Imagine being on a cross saying, forgive them for they know not what they do. He's dying and said that. I'm not dying. I'm hurt, but I can walk.
Yeah.
I can move. So it's very easy for me to say, I forgive you. But you better believe I'm going to light it on fire.
Yeah.
What?
No, I liked your response to that because, like you said, you didn't just mope about it. Your response basically was, I see you. I'm going to do your job better than you're going to do it. So much so that it's going to affect your business. And in the long run, I'll be better for it.
Oh, yes and no.
Okay.
Michael Jordan said, everybody's out there practicing and preparing to be better than Michael Jordan. I'm out there practicing and preparing to be better than myself. So when they catch up to the Michael Jordan they think they see or they think they know, I've already exceeded him. So for me, I was never going to try to do their job better.
Okay.
Right? Because that was their job, not mine. Instead, I was going to do my job better, my way, because I was invested into this, right? I wasn't invested financially, right? So there's a different investment, right? You can be invested financially, and if you lose that money, you can get it back.
Mm-hmm.
You know how to make money, right? That's okay. That's an investment. I make that investment. If it loses, I know how to go make more money. But when you invest time, when you invest sweat, tears, when you invest your soul to something, you can't lose. Like imagine everything I have, everything I own is in that vision, in that dream. You think for 1 second I can lose?
Right.
I can't lose. Seriously, my mindset has always been, I cannot lose.
So there's no complacency in that mindset, which I love. You're here. This building is awesome. You've got a great list of clientele, but with what you're saying, there's no complacency there. What's next? What do you want to do? Like, what's the vision?
Oh man. Now that's a loaded question, believe it or not. Seriously. I spent the last 2 weeks reflecting on myself. Self-reflection, I believe, is very important. And I think it's something that a lot of people will take for granted and they don't do it often. One of my close friends actually is the person who inspired me to do so. And he just said, basically, Marquis, before you make your next step and before you do your next thing, find out what your North Star is. That is my main goal, my main objective. And then he said, on top of that, make sure you have pillars that support your North Star. And then he said, make sure you know this is truly what you want to do no matter what. And so I had to sit back and I had to ask myself, what is it that I really want to do in life? Hands down. I love the gym. The gym is where my heart is. But at the same time, in a personal training gym, there comes a time where you got to ask this question. Are you going to be a boutique? Or are you going to turn it into a real business? Right? And how many times do you see people chained to the business? I mean, you become a slave to it. It's crazy to sound. It's like at some point you realize that you don't have any more control. It controls you. Right now, and I put myself in this position because this is what I wanted to do, right? So when I say fully invest, I mean my phone goes off every hour, 10 times an hour. People calling, people texting. It's always something.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I went back and I asked myself these questions, I said, what is it that I really want to do? What is my North Star? And I said, I love motivating people. I love motivating people. I love connecting. I love connecting with people. And then also love connecting people. I believe that you move a lot further with a team than you do as an individual, right? It says, someone says, you move faster alone, but you move further as a team.
Yeah.
And so I would love connecting people. And the final one was empowering. I love empowering people. I love educating them to the point where they feel like they can do it themselves. Frederick Douglass found this secret weapon, which is knowledge. And from there, he was able to fight back slavery and to free himself from being a slave, right? Only because he would gain knowledge. And when you gain knowledge, you have a weapon. And so how many young people, how many people out there don't have the right knowledge in order to get themselves out of their situation, right? And a lot of them will never have it unless they actually self-reflect to find out their strengths and their weaknesses, right? During the same time, it wasn't just about me saying, okay, I want to do this and this is why. No, it's a true breakdown of, okay, this is what I'm good at and this is what I'm weak at. Now, the question is, do you have the tools or the surrounding around you to make up for the areas you lack? See, then you're dangerous.
Yeah.
Right? Because then you can actually build a team. Right? So a lot of times, people try to do things themselves and they're in their own silo and it's like, no, we have the same vision. We have the same goal. We can all do this together, but you got to first find out what you're weak at. Right? You got to find out what you're strong at. And then you say, okay, this is how I can accomplish my North Star. Right? And so to answer your question about what's next, the best way I can say it is the same way my brother told it to me. I'm not going to tell you. I'm going to show you.
Okay.
Seriously, that's the best way I can put it.
So there's going to have to be a part 2 then.
Yeah, it's going to for sure be a part 2. Yeah. And so, you get ready.
Man, you sure like building up suspense.
No, man, it's not, man. Yeah, that's just natural. I love movies.
Yeah.
I love that, but it's at the same time, it's no one knows their next move until they start doing it. Right. So here's the thing. I can go right now and I can say, I'm going to do this tomorrow and write it down hour by hour, minute by minute, second by second. Tomorrow will come and some of that will change. Right. I know I have good ambition, right? I got good intentions, but things happen. And so in my case is, how do I align the things in my favor so things begin to happen in my favor? It's a domino effect. Right?
You're in stealth mode right now is what we call it in the world of entrepreneurship.
Okay. 100%. Right? And so imagine you seeing it and witness it firsthand. You're going to be like, wow, that's what he was going to do.
I'm excited, man.
Yeah, for real. So, man, and I think at the end of the day, I was able to find my North Star. And so as you're searching and you're self-reflecting, I think it's important to understand something. You got to make sure that it aligns with your true gifts and your true passion. You can be passionate about certain things, but passion is when you stop worrying about the money, you stop worrying about the time, and you really find that fulfillment in the thing you're doing. Right? It's when I spend time with my kids, I have 3 kids, phenomenal. I have a phenomenal wife, rock solid. And when I spend time with them, I don't care what's going on in the world. I don't care what's happening around me. I try to be as locked in into that moment as I possibly can, because I know for a fact that this time is valuable and it's not forever. But this is one of the greatest gifts that you can ever receive, is having that kind of genuine love from your kids and your wife. And I mean, imagine your kid looks at you every single day as if you're a super hero. Right? I'm Superman to my kids. If I'm Superman to my kids, you don't think I'm going to walk into this world pretending I'm Superman? But I'm going to keep that same cape on, and I'm going to do everything I possibly can to help as many people as I possibly can. And I promise you, I'm going to leave a trail, because at the end of the day, I hope my son and my daughter picks up the crumbs I left behind and begins to make their own path. But I want to build a foundation for them. My mom built this foundation for me, right? Now it's my turn to build my foundation for my kids, for my wife, for my family. You can't stop me. You really can't, because it's bigger than me. There was 10,000 people that came before me from my bloodline. And imagine all the effort, the work, everything they had to go through just so I can sit here. Man, you think for 1 second I'm going to let anybody or anything get in my way? No. You will know my name before it's all said and done. Better yet, you won't even know my name. You'll know his name. That's real. Maya Angelou said it best. She said, you might not remember my name, you might not remember what I've done for you, but you'll never forget the way I made you feel. So hopefully you see me in public like, man, I don't even know his name, but damn, I want some of that energy, dog. Man, the way it's something about his aura, his presence. Like, I want that to really, like I said, strong cologne. When you put on too much cologne and, man, everybody smells like, dang, that's a lot of cologne. Right? You get too close, you're going to start smelling like it, right? I want to have such a strong aura around me that is pushing off love and energy to where if you get too close, you're going to catch it. I want to be contagious. And I really want to make a difference in this world. So at the end of the day, when it is my time to go, there's zero regrets. When I close my eyes, I close it for the last time, knowing I've done all that I can do. Coaches used to tell you back in the day, like, did you really give it everything you had? Did you really go all out? I can't tell because you out celebrating after the game. Now, when you give it everything you have and you have nothing left, the only thing you want to do is sleep. So I pray that I give it everything that I have, to where when I close my eyes for that last time, I can truly rest knowing that I have nothing left.
I love that long-term impact play. Like, it's one of those things where you're right, it is bigger than you. Like, you have the potential to touch it's the ripple effect. What happens when you drop a rock into a lake and one ripple goes out and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, man. Like, it's a rising tide lifts all boats. So I think it's really cool that you're doing that, and that I have no clue what this avenue is that you're going to do it in, but I'm sure excited to watch it happen, man.
Man, I appreciate that. I'm excited.
Yeah,
I am.
Okay, so there's a couple things I want to touch on. A lot of the listeners of the podcast, they're my age. I'm 22. They're a little bit younger, a little bit older, but they're about that age. So they're just getting started. And, you kind of jumped quickly into it of you were working at collegiate, and then you were playing with high school athletes. You were working with high school athletes, and then you started doing private training, and then you had the gym. Like, I'd like to get a little bit more into the nuts and bolts of that, of why did you start working with high schoolers whenever you were so dead set in the NFL? You turned down the chief because you didn't want to work with college athletes or with professional athletes. Like, why did you come back to high school, and then how did you parlay that into personal training?
So I was the way, you got to be strategic in anything you're doing, right? So you got to have a plan. And so my plan was, okay, let me position myself where I know people can afford personal training. And in the meantime, how can I get to a mass amount of people? And I could just use my knowledge, my gifts, my skills, my talents, and hopefully attract them to want to work out with me after that. Right? So I would be on the football field and I race the fastest player and beat them. And they'd be like, whoa, you're fast. And I'm like, oh yeah, well, I do this. Well, how do you do that? Well, come to my gym and I'll show you. Right? And so it was one of those deals where they thought it was cool being fast. They thought it was cool being strong. And so they would go and they would come to my gym and I'd take them through a crazy workout. And I'd be the first to say, I did not know what I was doing when I started off.
You're just killing the kids.
I had so many coaches hating me, man. They hated me. But I will tell you, even though they hated me and my workouts, every athlete was better mentally. I mean, they go out there and they just be a straight dog out there, like really just a whole different person, right? And I can't say, oh, it was all because of workouts. No, it was a mindset, right? So I instilled something in them. And so you saw that reflection to where the parents are like, wow, there's something different about my kid. What is it? And so imagine that a Marquis effect, right? It's an effect where the parents wanted it and parents would come in and I would adjust it. I wouldn't do it the same way. Well, I was still crazy, but I would adjust it a little bit towards the parents to where they enjoyed it. But I was able to let them be their most authentic self, right? When you can have somebody at peace and they'll be vulnerable and they can be themselves around you, you know you have something. And so what I was able to do is I understood that in order for my personal training business to grow, I became a server at a restaurant and I began to work with high school athletes. And in both cases, I was able to attract people while I was serving. I was able to attract people from the high school. And then I began to build a following.
That's awesome.
Right? So from there, all I had to do was basically get my name out there a little bit. And then next thing you know, it's like, oh, where do you go? Marquis. Oh, where do you go? Marquis. Oh, where do you go? Marquis. Who was Marquis? Right? And so then you meet me. And I'm gonna be upfront. I'm gonna be me. 100% I'm gonna be me. But that's gonna allow you to be you. Right? You don't have to put on a front of who you are. You can truly be your genuine self. And when you do that, I mean, it unlocks so many people to where they're comfortable. And they want to be around you more and more. And my thing is here's the thing. You're not going to get it right. You're going to mess up. People are going to get mad at you. I made mistakes, right? And so that's why, I made so many mistakes to where I never hold grudges because I pray that people don't hold the same grudges on me. And so, at some point I got too busy and I had where I couldn't manage my own schedule. And so when people would want to come in, I'm like, oh man, I already got somebody at that time. And they're like, man, you're changing. You're not the same Marquis that you once was. Man, you was all, and I'm like, no, I'm still me, but I'm also loyal, right? This person has that time and I can't just give it up to you like I used to because I had it free then.
Yeah.
But now I'm starting at 4:30 a.m. and I'm going all the way until 7:30 p.m. And yet it's my fault if I can't get you into that session, if I can't make more time for you. And it hurts because, people feel like you changed throughout that process. And, I was hoping that I wouldn't change. And I don't think I did change. It's just I wasn't as available as I once was.
You were at capacity.
I was at capacity.
Yeah.
Right. And I didn't just go, I wasn't just a trainer. I was a friend too. So I would go to the kids' sporting events. I would go hang out with them. I'd go to dinner with them. If they said, hey, come to this charity event, I go to the charity event with them. If they say, hey, can you come help me move? I will go help move. If they said, hey, I'm having a fundraiser, can you come? I'm there. Right? I went to every function because I was really invested. I'm really a friend. I wasn't just a trainer. I was really a friend.
Yeah.
And so when you become that, it's like, man, you're going to get pulled and you're going to get pulled and you're going to get pulled. And the benefit of it is, yes, you're going to gain more people from it. But the downfall is you're not going to be able to service everybody the way you want to.
Yeah.
You're not going to be able to want to help. You want to help everybody, but you can't. And so something has to give. And that, that's probably the hardest part about this entire business is as my name grew, my time shrunk. And so now I'm finally getting to the point where I want to maximize my time. I want to maximize my energy. and I want to be able to work with the masses. And by me knowing that, man, everything changes.
Yeah. Your strength was your weakness. The same thing that allowed you to gain that clientele and to build that little following also overextended yourself and made you hit that capacity.
Yeah. One of my weaknesses I put down was overcommitting.
Yeah.
I don't want to let people down, so I'll commit to it. And I say, oh, yeah, I can do this, and I can do that, right? But when you do that, execution become like it's one of those things. You have great intentions, but poor execution. And so when that happens, then, man, now you get labeled and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
But once I recognized it, I just said, okay, how do I slow down? How do I adjust? How do I focus here, but then at the same time, I'm able to build to where I can scale myself to be in multiple places at one time. And so, that's something that I'm still working on, still trying to master. But I will say, working better as a team and presenting myself more as a team, it's a lot easier for people to work with other people that train with me.
Yeah.
Right? So when they come in, they know it's not just Marquis and you. It's going to be Marquis and a team. And so knowing I have a team behind me, you can change your time whenever you want to change it because I can have somebody cover for me. You can come in anytime so I can still make sure you're available. I can have somebody available to get what you want, right? And then every now and then, if I'm available, I'm there. But I can't guarantee it's always going to be me.
Yeah. That's a hard thing, man. That's a scaling problem because you can't be everything to everyone. You clearly care so much. So it seems like the only great option then is to invest in your team so that, you're all interchangeable. You all have that same energy, that you all have that same effort. You all care that much.
Absolutely. Then, now you're really scaling, right? So imagine now taking my philosophy, my values, my principles, and instilling them into somebody else, right? But they're going to come with a different flair, right? They're going to still be themselves, but they're going to have that same value system, same moral system, that same principles. And now you have something special because even though you're not present, they still feel your presence.
Yeah.
Right. And that is when you're doing something special. And so my goal right now is how do I get 1,000 people to feel my presence? How do I get 1 million people to feel my presence? How do I get the world to feel my presence without being present?
It's a big undertaking, man.
I want it.
It's ambitious, and I like that.
I want it. Funny thing I said today, when I was 22, 23 years old, you would ask me, hey, what do you want to do in life? I would have told you, I want to change the world. And then at some point in your life, the world smacks you in your mouth. And then you're 34, 35 years old and you're like, man, I remember I used to be crazy enough to think I could change the world, right? But then you kind of go back and you say, wait a minute, why? Why did that dream die? Why did it die?
Yeah.
Because of life, because of experiences. And now, being rejuvenated, believing that I have the right tools, I have the right foundation, the right knowledge, I truly believe that I can change the world. Not even change it. Let me just not say change. Because a lot of things in the world don't need to be changed. There's a lot of things to do, but a lot of things that don't. But instead of me thinking I'm going to change the world, I'm going to impact the world.
Yeah, I like that word better.
That is something that I want to do.
Yeah. Okay, a couple things. I like the strategy of you're going to go work at a restaurant, you're going to work with high school athletes because that's how you build your clientele. You kind of, it's like a loss leader. You sell the person on the free thing, which is your personality. They get you to like you. You get them to like you, and then you can come and you can train them. We were talking beforehand that, your name keeps popping up with people that I'm meeting and hearing about. And I'm like, okay, what is your clientele list like? Like, who have you worked with that people would know?
Oh, man. I have a large list of people that I work with.
Yeah.
I tell people that I have, how does somebody put it? I'm rich in social capital.
Yeah.
So I know, man, a lot of people.
Yeah.
I seriously, like, man, I had the opportunity to work with Chase Koch right now. I work with Steve Philmeyer. I work with Jeff Johnson. I work with Russ Meyer. I work with Don King. I work with Larissa, Julie Gentili, Tom Gentili, Sue Ann Fry, Patsy Baker, Steve Baker, T.D. O'Connell. I worked with Fred VanVleet at one point. I worked with Evan Marshall. I worked with Arthur and Bryce Brown. I worked with Dreamer Smith. I worked with Cassie Joe Craig, David Caveman Rickles, Chris Harris. I worked with I'm serious. I'm dead serious. The list. Dustin Devon. I work with Byron Knight. I work with James Herman. I work with Marty Cornejo, Clint Cornejo, Trey. I work with Ronnie. I work with Sean. I got a lot of nicknames, right?
Yeah.
I got nicknames out you can't even imagine, from Paula D to L.A. to Trishme to Monty to Fam to, I'm dead serious.
Yeah.
The list is insane. So if I would tell you, I probably have in my career, I probably trained 1,000+ people. No question.
Yeah. We know it's not the name that matters, right? Like, they put their pants on just like everyone else does. But going back to the social capital of, like, you can only do that by being authentic. Like, in the short term, you can fake it, but in the long term, you can only do it by being yourself. Like, knowing how you grew up and how things were when you were younger, how does it feel that you work with these people? Like, how does that, when you lay down at night, what do you think to yourself?
I used to dream of it. I can't even lie to you, man. I used to dream everything I'm doing. I used to dream of. I used to drive past houses and say, I want to train the person in that house. That's it. I used to drive by them, and I go to these nice neighborhoods. I'm like, I want to train that person. I want to train that person. And I'll never forget, I get invited over to a house, and I'm like, oh my goodness, this is the house of the person I wanted to train. Seriously. When I first heard about Hartman Arena, I'm like, man, whoever owns it, I want to train. And with Wink Hartman, and now you better believe I train Wink Hartman and Little Hartman. I want to train the person that owned Pizza Hut. Stuff like that. Like, seriously had that kind of crazy vision. Right. And said, and would say these things. And then next thing you know, I would be training them. And it wouldn't be me going after them. It'd be a situation where somebody referred them to me. And now the opportunity's there. And so I've always looked at it as I get the opportunity to impact somebody that has the opportunity to impact hundreds and thousands of people, right? A lot of these guys start their day off with me. So I determine their attitude.
Yeah.
So if I give them something where they feel confident, they feel strong, they can take that energy and they can go out there and put it into their business, and they can go out there and let it spread.
That is so cool. I love the full circle element of it. Do you know who Andy Frisella is?
I do not.
Okay. So he's pretty popular on social media. He's the founder of First Form, which is a large supplement company. I'm from St. Louis. It's a very large supplement company from there. But he used to drive past Ulysses S. Grant's house because that's where President Grant lived, was St. Louis. We got Grant's Farm and all those other namesakes out there. But he used to drive past his old house, which is a replica of the White House. It's an absolute mansion. The thing is sick. It's gated. It's up on the hill. And he used to drive past it. And he was like, one day I'm going to own that house. And he started Supplement Superstores, his first business, right out of high school. He didn't even go to college. And, it went terribly. It didn't work out. Like 10 years, and he's making like $500 a month after 10 years. And long story short, ends up catching like 12, 15 years in, starts taking off. He starts First Form. First Form's $1 billion company now. He's ultra successful. He's like 42, 45 years old, somewhere in that range. He bought Ulysses S. Grant's house and then did like a large renovation on it, added a car barnuminium for his private car collection, like did the full 9 yards. And one of his favorite things to do is like talk about how he used to drive past that house. He's like, one day I'm going to have that.
Oh man, it's something about the power of believing something is possible, seeing it's possible. Like, so no joke. One of my favorite things is hearing about Walt Disney.
Yeah.
And he never got the chance to experience Disney World, right? And somebody said that's not true because he dreamed of it.
Yeah, in his mind.
He already experienced every ride, every angle, every aspect of it. He had already experienced in his mind. Right now, although I didn't tell you what I'm doing next, I can see it as clear as day. I could feel it. I'm dead. I mean, as crazy as it sounds, I can truly feel it.
It's right there.
as if it's real.
Yeah.
And so I'm present, but I'm really living somewhere totally different right now.
I get that more than ever, dude. I've been that way for like the last couple of years.
Come on now. I love that.
It's crazy, you know, it's hard to explain, but it's like, it's right there. And
Yeah.
you don't have all of it figured out, but like, you know, the next couple steps and you know the destination, like,
Oh man, I can see the colors. I can see the crowd. I know my outfit. I know what's happening around me, the people, the feeling, like the big smile on my face and the people that's there and what's happening and how it's happening. Like, I'm dead serious. It's so real that I could feel it.
so you've got this grandiose vision that you want to accomplish. You're currently pretty well at capacity with what you're doing now. I'm curious, like, what does your day-to-day look like?
Man, so I started I started 5 a.m. Okay. Thankfully, I have a great team. So a lot of times my guys take over my 5 and my 6. Right. And so, but in reality, it's, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I have a 1:30 to 2 break. Seriously, 1:30 to 2 break.
Jeez.
So like that's my first 30-minute break.
Yeah.
I know that, right? So in that 30-minute window, that's when I'm going to get lunch or I'm gonna get coffee. I'm gonna do something. That's my personal time. That's okay, cool.
Yeah.
And then at 2 o'clock, I have something. At 3 o'clock, I got my first real break. And so I have a break from 3 to possibly 4:30, depending on if there's somebody that already has that slot. And if they want it, they can call me last minute and get it. And so that's theirs, right? And so in most cases, though, they don't do it on Monday. So from 3 o'clock till 7 o'clock, that's my family time. Right. So I can say that's a solid 3.5 hours where I dedicate to my kids to be there for dinner, to story time, to play games, to wrestle, to do all these different things. But that is my time with them.
Mm-hmm.
And so then at 7 o'clock, I go back to training. Crazy as it sounds, I go back to training at 7, and then I train again at 8. And then I'm done at 9. And from there, I go home. And the new thing I said is, it's too late for me to do any more business. I've already done a lot of business. So let me take this time from 9 to 10:15 to spend it with my wife.
Yeah.
Right. And this is our time. Even though we had family time, I still think it's important to make time for my wife. That way we always have our relationship, and it's something that we can continue to grow and continue to build on. And so I think that's important. And this is something I work on. Right. I can't always say I'm as good as I need to be in this situation because things do happen, but this is time I'm dedicating to her.
Yeah.
And I'm becoming better. And when I do that, everything in my life goes better. Right. And so knowing that I'm fulfilling my wife and doing my part to make time for her, man, I go out into the next day and, she's going to send me an encouraging message to say, hey, you got this.
Yeah.
Hey, keep going. And so then the next day, it basically repeats. It will change. I get a little more gaps, and then in those gaps, I have more. So like 2.5 hour gaps, but that's business time, right? That's vision time. That's business time. That's when I'm working on myself and I'm studying and I'm learning and I'm building and preparing for what I'm doing and why I'm doing it and how I'm doing it. That's my time for meetings. That's my time to go out there and do other things. So I plan that. And then once again, I save that 2.5 hours, 3.5 hours for my kids, family, and I'm right back to training. So it just, man, each day. Now, on the weekends, I'm done. Right? So that's my family time. That's my kids' time. Now, I want to be at all my kids' events, all their sporting events. I want to be there. Right? And I have a 5-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a soon-to-be 1 in a couple days.
That's a handful.
Yeah. And so, but I want to make sure that on the weekends I dedicate that to them. At the same time, I do work on the weekends, but not train. Right? I work on the business, not in the business.
Yeah.
And then as things open up, that's what I'm going to travel, and that's what I'm going to do, kind of this next phase of what, that you don't know.
I can tell you want to tell me, man.
No, you know what? It's funny because I think the impact of it would be a lot better if you see it rather than me telling you.
Yeah, that's fine, man. That's fine. So if you get like an hour or you find like a little gap somewhere, you have so much going on. I'm always curious about like, how do you decompress, or like, how do you cope with stress and the weight of everything you have going on? Like, what is your favorite way to decompress?
Talking to my friends. Dead serious. Talking to my friends.
Really?
Yeah. So I'll call up one of my childhood best friends and just get on there and we'll just talk about life, talk about goals, and, talk about little things and dumb things, and, or talking to my mom, talking to my brother, talking to my wife, because they still need time.
Yeah.
Right. And I know there's a case where people say, well, people got to sacrifice, and yeah, there's sacrifices, but at the same time, what fulfills me is knowing that I can go back and I can just relax a little bit, and I can talk about whatever I want to talk about. But if I'm really experiencing something, right, I can vent, knowing that I'm not going to get judged.
Right.
Knowing that I can be as honest with them as possible, and I can be vulnerable. Right. And so when I am open and I am vulnerable to them, I can just release and relax. And once you do that, man, the next time you're up, it's like, let's go. Seriously, let's go.
It's important to have people like that. That's like a safe space where you can just kind of, because sometimes I feel like you can't really process things. You have so much going on so quickly. You can't process until either I'm really big at writing it out or sitting down and talking to someone about it.
Man, one of the greatest things I recently found was writing it out.
Yeah.
So in some cases, I get overwhelmed. I'm not perfect, so I get overwhelmed because I have so many different things. And the funny thing is, I'm only overwhelmed because I don't have a plan. Right. And so when you have so many different things in the back of your mind and in your head, and you got so much going on and you don't have a plan, you can't see a way out. And so it's just constantly just pounding and adding to the stress of your life, and you feel miserable. You feel terrible. You're like, what is going on? Right. And even if you tell somebody, it still doesn't get you out. Yeah, it helps, takes away the pressure a little bit, but then something else comes and boom, here comes that pressure again. But when I write it down and then I strategize on, okay, if I did X, okay, and then if I did Y, oh man, then yeah, okay, now that's what I need to do.
Yeah.
Right now I'm clear again because I got a game plan.
I'm really big on strategizing too.
Yeah, it's important, right? You can't, man. I've taken risk and I've jumped and I've done the crazy things. But one thing that I've learned from Albert Einstein is he said, what's gotten me here will not necessarily take me to where I'm going. So I cannot rely on my past and just constantly keep jumping. Yeah, I was young and dumb. I'm supposed to jump, right? But instead of jumping now, what if I can engineer a quicker path? What if I can take a ladder, right? I don't need to bump my head again. I don't need to learn those experiences again. I already learned them.
Yeah.
So this case is like, okay, let me strategize a little bit better. Let me educate myself a little bit better. Let me gain the knowledge that's needed. So before I take these steps and before I do X, Y, and Z, there's an actual plan that all I got to do is step out and keep stepping. As long as I'm continuing to move forward, it's a greater chance that it's going to happen. So, be young, be foolish. Absolutely. Be young, be dumb. No. Seriously. Right? You make that choice. And I love what Steve Jobs, when he said that, right? Remain young, remain foolish. And what he means by that, from my perspective, is keep that mentality that you can change the world. Regardless of what the world says, keep that kind of childhood behavior mindset where you feel like the little things you do on a daily basis can really impact the world and change it. Right? That way you're always striving to continue to improve and be better, and you never settle. And be foolish enough to actually believe it's true. Right?
I like that. And I like the distinction too between foolish and dumb, because to me, dumb is I made the mistake and I'm going to make it again. And that's just being dumb. But being foolish is, I had that naivety. It's almost like an ignorance. You're young, you're figuring things out. I tried something. It didn't work. I bumped my head. I'm not doing that again.
I'm not doing it again. Because I've learned from it now.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to stop, but I'm going to just figure out another way to get there. Right. And so when you figure, like LeBron James is doing it right now. Like seriously, people
he's doing a lot of things right now.
Yeah. So people don't understand. Like they're like, man, how is he able to do what he's doing at his level, right? At such a high age, and it's funny because I'm like, well, he's not trying to dunk on everybody anymore. He's not trying to take over the game by himself anymore. He's letting the game come to him. He's controlling the game. The game's not controlling him. So he's going to make the right passes. He's going to use his skill of leadership to get his team more involved. And so when that happens, you empower your teammates. And from that, they feel like, man, I can go and do, I watch him, D'Angelo Russell, right? Russell shoots, he's on fire, he's hot. And then he misses one and he tries to pass it to LeBron. LeBron passes it right back to him. Say, shoot it. Because he understands that, hey, I don't have to take 20 more shots just because you missed that one and you feel like you're out of rhythm. No, I believe in you. Now that's less miles. That's a less shot he has to take. And boom, his team is helping. And so now, he doesn't need to go out there and get 100 points. He can get 20, then he can get 5 assists and 5 rebounds and call it good. So it's how do you become smarter? How do you get the team around you to work better with you? And then how do you use your energy and your gifts and your skills to do it for a long period of time?
Yeah, and that long period of time is something that I'm very interested in. It seems like LeBron's done a good job with load management, and I know it's kind of a joke about him sitting out of games, but I'm talking more in the context of he stretches out a lot. He does a lot of massaging. He does a lot of ice baths, cryotherapy, sauna. He utilizes a lot of those longevity tools that I think haven't been utilized in this way before, at least in that capacity.
Yeah, and I think that's when it comes down to education and knowledge, right? Knowing your body. At some point, you realize the dog is already in you. You ain't got to constantly beat it into you, right? You did all the hard training and the hard work and all the crazy stuff to get to where you are, right? But now it's about maintaining it, right? And then when you study the game and you have so much knowledge of it, it's a lot easier. Everything slows down, right? You ever watch certain basketball players and they go so fast and they get out of control and things like that because the game's not coming to them. They're trying to force the game, right? I don't know if you ever tried to talk to a girl and you didn't have all the confidence in the world and you try to, force the conversation. Things didn't go well.
That's never happened.
Yeah. But when you're smooth and you're yourself, you don't got to force it. Instead, you just let it come to you. And by doing that, everything is a lot calmer, a lot easier, and things begin to fall in place a lot better.
I love it, man. And I'm taking you away from your family. Let's wrap this up, dude.
Hey, I 100%, man. I was, I think what might be the smartest thing to do is break this up in 2 segments.
Yeah.
So, but man, honestly, I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
This was fun. This was good. And, I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to use this platform to tell my story, and hopefully it can impact and inspire somebody. And, if I just get one person, then hey, I've done my job.
I really appreciate you, man. And you killed it for your first podcast. You're very, very natural, very calm.
Man, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. 2 questions. First one, where can people find you online if they want to connect, learn more, keep up with you?
Marquis Motivation on Instagram. That's the easiest way to get a hold of me on Instagram. And then the other one is Marquis Koch Bradley on Facebook.
On Facebook?
Yep.
All right.
So somebody just told me I need a LinkedIn.
You need a LinkedIn.
Yeah. So everybody's like, you need a LinkedIn and all this other stuff. So I will be getting all that. But for now, I think the easiest way is Marquis Motivation at Instagram, and I take it from there.
Did you just start a LinkedIn like a couple days ago or something?
No. The funny thing is some people have made LinkedIns for me years ago.
Because I added you this morning.
That's not me. Okay, let me rephrase it. It's me. I don't have the password, the email, nothing.
People I got you.
People made those for me and never gave me the information. And so they've been sitting, and I laugh because I'm like, I can only imagine all the messages I have on there.
Yeah, dude. They're reaching out.
I'm like, I don't even know how to get a hold of anything.
Deals get done on LinkedIn, man.
Yeah, well, you know what? I guess the right deals will get done now that I'm ready.
Yeah. All right, so I'll link all those for you. I'm at Jacob O'Connor. The podcast is at Real Period Conversations. If you enjoyed this episode, please make sure to share it with a friend, like, review, comment. Marquis, my final question for you. Looking back at this really cool journey you've been on, what advice would you offer to your 22-year-old self?
man, it's going to be okay. No matter what. It's going to work out. It's going to be okay. Just keep going. Seriously, just keep going. And no matter how hard it gets, just continue to trust God's plan, live by it, and you're going to win, man. You're going to really do everything you set out to do.
Thank you for coming on, man.
Appreciate it. Thank you for having me.